For this latest little game of yours, thank the stars it's over. Did you have fun? Did you get everything out of your system? Good, good. Everyone is so relieved. Welcome home, Pig.
Yikes. Hey everyone, welcome to Fossa Talks. I'm Fossa, let's growl. So, as you guys by the title of this video, I'm going to be checking out controversial hot takes on Steven Universe, because in case I didn't make it aware yet, Steven Universe is pretty peak, and I truly can spend countless hours glazing it, but I wanted to do something, well, different. So I scoured the sources of Reddit to find a bunch of controversial opinions, and I thought I could provide the blatant review on them. Since Fossa Talks is open to interpretations, let me know your own opinions down below. So, if you disagree with what I gotta say, I love a good debate. Anyways, let's start off strong with... First controversial opinion, providing a way to get rid of shattering is a bad idea. Ooh, we are starting off strong. So anyways, in case you aren't aware, shattering a gem is basically the human-like equivalent of offing a human being. So unlike poofing, where a gem's physical form is damaged and they can regenerate, shattering harms the gem's gem, causing the gem to, in a sense, die. So you can resurrect a gem using essences made by all of the diamonds. We learned this in future when Steven, yes, our beloved innocent cow ice cream eating, Steven shatters Jesper. Steven brings Jesper back by using the essences of all the diamonds to heal the gems. So what do I think of this? Well, I gotta say, Fossas, I agree. Mainly because shattering played such a big deal in the story. In fact, so many major arcs and events are due to shattering. Like, what about Bismuth? The whole reason Rose locks her up in that bubble is because Bismuth invented the breaking point, a tool that could effortlessly shatter gems, and Rose found that to be problematic. Ah, yes, the hypocritical fake Rose Quartz ruled as a dictator, possibly responsible for the shattering of 1,000 gems, finds this problematic. Yet despite this, you gotta agree, Bismuth's arc and Steven learning this disturbing fact about his mother would have never existed if the whole concept of shattering wasn't considered so deadly. The reason we get all shudders hearing the word shattering is because it can't be undone. Another thing I'd like to have believed is shattering is the gem equivalent of death, and we all shudder of death because it can't be undone. And honestly, we all know the entire world feels about resurrecting characters out of the blue. Looking at you, Kid Azra, shattering should be met with the same expectations. Second controversial opinion, Bismuth was in the right. Well, let's get this straight. Bismuth created a weapon known as the Breaking Point because she was considered the Black Means of the Christmas gems. The Breaking Point was able to effortlessly shatter gems. Now, the crystal gems were fighting for the rights of marginalized gems and were to end the diamond's wrong tyranny as dictators. Now, despite all of this, the crystal gems were never actually wanting to kill the wrong people. This actually comes back to a very long thought-out moral dilemma, but would you kill one person to save 5? Now, obviously, Bismuth wanted to save 5. She wanted to save the gems, she wanted to ensure the crystal gems would have victory, and she felt that quickly being able to shatter gems would be the best method. And if you think that hard about it, isn't really wrong. If killing one person, e.g. the diamonds, were to mean 5 in this context, the entire gem civilization could live peacefully. Exactly what is there to overthink? Also, let's not forget everything Rose started creating the crystal gems. Actually, thinking more back on this gives us another equally plausible reason to dislike Rose. Rose herself used shattering to escape from the tyranny of the diamonds. In fact, she created this entire war thing, not on purposely. But as soon as Bismuth brought up the idea of shattering gems, actually Rose felt that shook with her moral compass. Perspective is everything in this world. I mean, the bad guy's the good guy in the bad guy's eyes and vice versa. And Rose felt that shattering would be too extreme despite everything she did by shattering. I mean, if you think about it on a larger scale, morally, then yeah, killing anyone is wrong. Would be a bad guy whatsoever, but Rose, someone who drilled the idea into all these gems' minds that the crystal gems are doing the right thing and demonized the diamonds and lied about where she came from. I mean, it's not like you can expect every gem to, be okay with all of this. I won't say Bismuth was in the right in terms of morally or large scale, but if you think about her circumstances and her core beliefs, then yeah, Bismuth was in the right. Especially regarding her circumstances and viewpoints. And the only person I can even begin to blame is Rose, also for bubbling her up simply about making the suggestion, lying to Pearl, Garnet, and the others about how Bismuth dies was just extreme. I mean, if you think Rose, aka Pink, learned her lesson about fake shattering someone by now. Phew, that was heavy. Next opinion. The diamonds don't deserve redemption. Okay, so this is where things get utterly confusing, but for a show like Steven Universe, I'm gonna unfortunately have to say no. The Diamonds did deserve redemption, but before I go and get canceled, let me explain. So, Steven Universe is a good show because it doesn't have good and bad characters outright. Yeah, we have morally gray, but after a certain point, nobody's good nor bad. They're all people. Despite being about a bunch of space rocks, Steven Universe does a good job highlighting how these rocks can have emotions, and the amount of allegory, shadows, and metaphors are what make this show so incredible. So now, if you have to talk about the diamonds, you have to understand they are people too. I know. They did horrible things. They abused Pink. She went on to abuse others. They abused countless of gems. They abused Steven. They abused Pearls. But the thing is, they are morally great too. The reason the Diamonds acted like this were to their own complexities and insecurities, leading them to act this way. Blue Diamond grieves and forces others to grieve, reflecting emotional abuse. Yellow Diamond physically shatters the gems to assert dominance, reflecting physical abuse. White Diamond manipulates and abuses others, reflecting psychological abuse. And Pink Diamond forcing abuse becomes an abuser herself. But you have to understand that while they were going around abusing all these gems and a half a gem, they were also getting abused themselves. Despite the Diamonds being dictators and acting, well, very unjust to say the least, the Diamonds were also used to their own inner Diamond circle. The reason Blue Diamond grieves so much is because she lost Pink, and Diamond faces trauma from that. And even though that is absolutely not the excuse or actions, you have to understand where she's coming from. She sees her emotions and expresses them, and it forces others to express her emotions, so she feels hurt. Yellow physically harms with her gems and leads colonies because, in her eyes, that's right. Why? Because her higher authority or mother figure, White Diamond, tells her, Yellow, your worth is defined by how much land you conquer, how many gems you shatter, how many colonies you create, etc. So, of course, Yellow Diamond is going to see that as right. I believe Blue Diamond and Yellow Diamond themselves were victims to White Diamond, but despite all this, they still abused Pink, claiming her to be unfit to rule because they felt that if we work so hard to get into White Diamond's good graces, or in fact society's good graces, why should you? Basically, they were controlling, thus caused Pink to lash out because in her eyes she thought power would make her seen. Power would make her loved. That's the only why she wanted a colony. Now there's still one question: why did Diamond oppress the Diamond? Why did White Diamond oppress the Diamonds? Well, that, my dear Fossas, is a classic case of being so perfect it physically hurts. Now, if you hold a ruby to a level of scrutiny, White Diamond considered that same scrutiny should be applied to her own children. In a sense, while White Diamond viewed perfectionism as the ultimate power, she saw perfectionism as a staple. She saw perfectionism as the way to even live. If anything imperfect was done to White, it would hurt because she believed perfectionism was the only thing necessary for the gem civilization to thrive. It's kind of like you want to plan a perfect picnic or road trip or whatever. You stress everyone out so much that in the end you just want everyone you care for to be happy, but in that attempt you cause severe distress to others up to the point where you ruin the whole trip. White did that with an entire civilization. Perfection is like salt. Tastes good in certain places, yaps up others. White never learned to measure. White actively forced everyone in the Diamonds to live perfectly because in her eyes, perfection was the only necessary to her. And if she could maintain her whole Diamond family in a healthy or perfectly organized way, she could run her own, if you will, kingdom that same way. Now that we understand where the Diamonds are coming from, you can see that even though they screwed up, you gotta admit they were hurting. Yeah. But I think one of the biggest reasons redemption could have worked is because of Pink. Because, well, you see, Pink Diamond was the first of the Diamonds to notice what they were doing was wrong. And even though she had questionable ways of going around and solving it, knowing she was wrong all along and taking steps to solve it is still progress in itself. Pink, now Rose, still did a lot of good. Think about it. If Rose never redeemed herself in that way, Garnet wouldn't have existed, Pearl wouldn't have found herself, Steven wouldn't have existed, Amethyst wouldn't have realized what she was truly made for. In fact, all of Steven Universe wouldn't exist. If Pink never decided to come out as Rose, lots of people would still be hurt or lost. Think about Greg without Rose. He wouldn't have had Steven and he'd be stuck with a terrible manager, or Pearl. Albeit Pink never did anything that life-changing to Pearl, but Pearl found love and Pearl found independence after her, and all that never would have existed. Garnet refused and found love and stayed Garnet because of Rose, who told her to never question herself. It might sound like I'm great at glazing Rose. Trust me, I'm not. I'm just trying to communicate the thought point that so many good things happen because Rose redeemed herself. So just imagine all the good that can happen with the Diamonds redeeming, like little homeschool, finding solitude, Spinel finding home. these things all happen because of the diamonds redeeming themselves. And even without them, they haven't really learned their lesson. You can't really argue with the output that came with them redeeming themselves. Oh, that one's really heavy again. These controversial opinions are really getting heavier and heavier as we move forward. But one of the final ones I would like to finally touch is all of the filler episodes. So one of the biggest problems people brought up with the Steven Universe was the fact that there was so much filler focusing on the towny episodes and how that really undermined the story. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't really hate filler. Filler is really important. It's important for fleshing out characters, and it's also really important for showing off character dynamics. And personally, in the Townie episodes, we got to see a lot of the town characters, and even though they aren't as, fascinating or interesting or complex as reading about a bunch of genocidal diamonds, it's still important because we're learning more about how Steven came to be Steven. Well, we now know what Steven is biologically. I mean, he's half gem. We learn more about the gem heritage, the gem war, the gem this, the gem that. But we need to understand Steven grew up in Beach City. For around 14 years of his life, he grew up in Beach City. Before he knew he was half gem and half this, the gem thing was just something on his belly button. It wasn't like a really conscious manifestation of who he really was. But through all the Townie episodes, we got to see all of Steven's past. Like, not his past regarding his mother's past, but, his past. Like, everything he had. Like, his friends, the big donut, the cool kids, Onion. And through these Townie episodes, we also got to see a lot about Steven's own dad, Greg, and we got to see all the parallels between him and Rose. I mean, I get it's important. We need to learn more about the diamonds, or we need to learn more about the gems, or we have so many other unanswered questions. But the thing is, Steven Universe isn't just about everything going on with the gems. It's also about what's going on in Beach City. It's about what's going on in Steven's lives. And it's about Steven's life. And you can't talk about Steven's life without talking about the first 14 years of his life, which he spent in Beach City. All of his friends, all of his neighbors, all of his old friends who he pretty much considers his family. Even when he leaves in future, you can see it's a big deal when everyone in the town goes to say goodbye to him. Steven did good things for others did good things for him, and all the fillers where we get to see so many things shine. And besides, Steven Universe was not only praised for all the lore it built around the gems, it was also for every kind of emotional conflict it dealt with, like Connie and her parents, or Lars and Sadie, or the cool kids, or Rock, or Ronaldo. Ronaldo was something. I'm not really happy he got many episodes, but he was still something. And all these characters really shaped Steven for his first 14 years of life, and we got to see more of Beach City as a whole. Because no one wants to hear about a gem war and a gem massacre for like 5 seasons. It has to be a little bit more lighter than that. And that's what I liked about Steven Universe. You can smile, you can cry, you can laugh, you can feel all these different emotions that just like aren't possible. And if you wanted to only see war or bloodshed, but this was supposed to bring you hope and light, that a perfect society, not a perfect society, but like a world like Steven Universe, like world like Beach City could actually exist. So that is one of my controversial opinions, that I think the filler/Townie episodes were actually well done if you don't count the Ronaldo ones, and how they actually make the whole show better if you think about it on an aspect, or the different parallels, or the different foreshadowing bits. But everything in Steven Universe was really thought out, and I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about it. But anyways, I think I'm all controversial opinioned out for today. So if you guys disagree, or if you agree, or if you have any unique thoughts you would like to share in the comments, please go ahead. They're up there for a reason. So I'll check you out later next time you click on a video. Goodbye, Fossas. Peace out.